Hello, and welcome back to English for You. I'm Seb.
I'm Nikki.
And we are talking more about art. Yes, we are. So, Nikki, we went to Treasure Hill, didn't we, last month? Yeah. What did you think of it?
I still think it's pretty. I always think it's pretty, and because the last time I went there, it was raining, and this time it was sunny. So I think it's better.
Yeah, and they have a lot of interesting outdoor activities there when it's sunny. One thing I really like about Treasure Hill is the galleries, all those small spaces where they have different pictures and art. And I mean, one of the reasons I like going to look at art is because a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Oh, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, have you heard of that phrase?
Yes, I think it means that a picture means more than one can say about things.
Exactly. So, like, if you go to a travel destination, you go to Paris, for example, and you write about it versus taking a picture of Paris. Yeah,
it would be like, oh...
Exactly. There's like much more to say about Paris from the picture than there is from writing about it.
Just looking at the words.
Exactly. So why are we teaching you this expression? Well, today's article begins with a painting that tells lots of stories at once. It's a painting by an indigenous artist called Yosifu. Yosifu is known for his bright portraits, pictures of people, and pictures of landscapes. They tell a lot of stories about his home village in
Which is Hualien.
Exactly, Hualien County. Let's take a look at today's article.
Reading.
Pride Through Painting, Yosifu's Amis Art. Can't Speak is a painting of an Amis woman. She faces you. Her head leans forward. Her eyes are shut, and her hair is brushed back under a large, brightly colored headdress. The woman is pressing a finger against her lips. Before, Taiwan's indigenous people used to be banned from speaking their languages. Can't Speak remembers this and quietly encourages them to be proud of their identity. Many of Yosifu's paintings have connections to his Amis identity. The painter says he is influenced by the colors and patterns from traditional Amis clothing. Powerful pinks, reds, yellows, and greens fill his pictures with warmth. That warmth can also be seen in the smiling faces of his subjects. Most of Yosifu's paintings feature his family and friends. It's because these are people I love, he explains. When you love someone, there's warmth. And when there's warmth, there's beauty.
Okay, so our article begins by introducing a portrait. Can't Speak is a painting of an Amis woman. Okay, so Can't Speak, that's the name of the painting. And it's a beautiful painting. Have you seen it, Nikki?
Yes, and I really like the colors that he used.
Yes, he has lots of very bright colors, doesn't he?
Yeah, and the article describes the painting by saying, she faces you, her head leans forward. Lean 是动词，指的就是靠或者是向某一侧倾斜。那在这边课文的意思就是说，这幅画里面的女人，她的头是往前倾的。
Right. The article goes on to say, her eyes are shut and her hair is brushed back under a large, brightly colored headdress. Ah, that's very interesting because Amis people are known for having quite very decorative and very creative headdresses, don't they? Yeah.
接着课文就说，她的眼睛是闭着的，她的头发往后梳，而且戴着一个很大，而且颜色很鲜艳的头饰 headdress。headdress 指的就是头巾或者是任何你戴在头上的头饰。
Exactly. So the woman, it says, is pressing a finger against her lips. Okay. So this is normally something that we do when we want someone to be quiet or we don't want them to talk. Yeah, exactly. Shush.
Before, Taiwan's indigenous people used to be banned from speaking their languages.
Exactly. We should actually point out here, we've been talking about this being an Amis woman. Now, Amis is the word we use in English to talk about people who are from Ameizhu, which is one of Taiwan's indigenous groups. Now, indigenous means something that originally comes from a specific place or area. We often use indigenous to talk about people, specifically ethnic groups or 民族. Indigenous people, or 原住民, are the people who lived in a place first. Ethnic groups such as the Amis people, 阿美族, Atayal people, 泰雅族, and Paiwan people, 排湾族, are some of Taiwan's indigenous peoples. We can also use indigenous to talk about plants and animals that are originally from a place. Leopard cats, 台湾的狮虎, are indigenous to Taiwan. Horses, though, aren't indigenous to Taiwan. They were brought here by people.
接着我们看到 used to, somebody used to do something, 指的就是某一个人以前常常做某件事，可是现在不做了。那要注意 used to 后面加的是原形动词。那我们看一个句子，就是 I used to live in a small town, but I moved to the city 10 years ago. 除此之外 there was a really popular song called Somebody That I Used to Know. You know the song?
Oh, I do know that song, yes. That was very big 10 years ago.
意思就是以前曾经认识的人，可是现在已经不知道他是谁了。然后他的 lyrics 就是说 Now you're just somebody that I used to know. 再来还有 be banned from.ban 当动词的时候指的是官方的禁止 refuse to allow 那这边用到的是被动指的就是某一个人被禁止做某一件事情那 from 后面要加的是 VING form
Exactly. So the article goes on to say, can't speak remembers this and quietly encourages them to be proud of their identity. Okay, so remember here, we know remember normally to mean like remember a fact or remember to do something. But remember here means to honor something or show respect to it. So for example, Peace Memorial Day in Taiwan remembers a terrible day in 1947 when many Taiwanese people were killed by the government. So here it's honoring the fact that that happened or making sure that people don't forget it forever. So the painting is remembering the fact that Amis people were once not allowed to speak their language. And instead of telling people not to speak their language, this painting is encouraging them to be proud of who they are.
And the article says many of Yosifu's paintings have connections to his Amis identity.
Exactly. So identity, remember, we've talked about this in some other episodes. Identity is a part of you or an important part of you. So his Amis identity is the fact that he is from Amis culture and he identifies with Amis culture. We also saw the word connection. Now, connection is a noun, and it's the way in which two things are related to each other or affected by each other. We can use connection in lots of different ways. We can use it to mean people, as in the connections are the people you know, normally influential people. So we could say that someone has lots of connections in the entertainment industry. They know a lot of important people in the entertainment industry. Or Eddie has connections in the music industry. However, it can also be used to mean a feeling of understanding between two people or a good relationship. So Seb and Nikki have a great connection. They even finish each other's
sentences.
Exactly. So the article talks about having a connection to something or someone. When you have a connection to something or someone, you understand that thing or that person very, very well, or it's related to you. So here we have Peter feels a strong connection with nature, so he spends a lot of time in the countryside.
Connection 有很多意思，那在课文这边的意思就是说和某个东西或是某个人的连结或者是关联。那它的动词呢是 connect. We can also use the word link to mean the same thing. 所以说这个画家的画作很多都跟他的阿美族身份有关系。Connection 还有另一个意思是电话接通的品质。For example, if you're in the basement, it's likely that the connection would be bad. 例句说 Peter 感觉自己和大自然有很强烈的连结，所以他花很多时间在乡下。And the article says the painter says he's influenced by the colors and patterns from traditional Amis clothing.
Yes, you can see that a lot in his paintings. There's lots of strong reds and pinks, and I think we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, let's look at the word painter. Now, painter is quite an easy word to learn. It's someone who paints, so it's a noun, it's a job. We can use this to mean an artist, someone who paints pictures or portraits like优席夫, or we can use it to mean someone who paints things a different color. So that would be like a house painter, for example, someone that you hire to paint your bedroom a different color. That is a house painter, or paint the outside of your house. So here's two examples using two different ways of using that word. The first one is, my best friend makes a living as a painter. The second one is, Robert doesn't have time to decorate his whole living room, so he hired a house painter. Now, one thing to remember here is, like many other jobs, we make painter by adding er onto the verb paint, which is a doing word. And we can do this with quite a few different artisty, crafty different jobs. So here's another few examples. We can turn somebody who photographs things into a photographer. That's just photograph plus er. Someone who bakes might be a baker, B-A-K-E-R, or someone who writes might be a writer.
Painter 是名词，指的就是画家或者是漆油漆的人。那在这篇课文呢，指的是画家。We can also say that he is an artist. 那它的动词 paint 指的就是画画或者是漆油漆。那 paint 也可以当作是名词，就是漆油漆的颜料。那例句说，我最好的朋友以当画家为生。第二个例句说 ，Robert 没有时间去装饰布置他的客厅，所以他就请了一个油漆工来帮他。
We also saw the word influence. Now, influence is a verb, and when something influences you, it gives you ideas or encourages you to behave in a certain way. Celebrities, 明星, are a good way to help you think about influence. If you like the way your favorite celebrity dresses, speaks, or behaves, you might dress, speak, or behave in the same way. In this case, the celebrity has influenced you. So, for example, this dancer says she is influenced by K-pop music videos, and she uses a lot of moves she sees in them. So we can actually, I didn't know if you know this, but we can also use influence as a noun. Your influences are the things that influence you. So, Nikki, you like a lot of music. What are some of your influences?
I think a lot of my influences of music are my teachers and friends that I play music with.
Oh, okay. So you like the way that they make music.
Yeah, and they inspired me. I do have some references in terms of music writing, but I try not to let other singers influence me.
Oh, okay.
Influence 是动词也是名词，指的就是影响或是作用。Influence doesn't always come out as a good thing. You can also have a bad influence on someone. 那像是可能追踪人数很多的网红或是网美，我们就会说他们是 influencer， 对事情或者是人有影响力的人。
We also saw the word pattern, which is a noun, and a pattern is a repeating design in art, pictures, or clothing. Right now, I'm wearing a shirt with a striped pattern on it. That's 条纹图案. Clothes worn by Taiwan's indigenous people have colorful patterns on them. So, Atayal traditional clothing, for example, often has striped patterns on it. Yeah, and you can see examples of this at the Atayal Museum in Wulai, New Taipei. Another example sentence of this is, Jane normally likes to wear plain t-shirts, but today she's wearing one with an interesting pattern on it. So we saw the word plain in our example sentence, and that is another kind of design, but it's not a pattern. Something plain or a plain piece of clothing, plain clothes, are just one color, not multiple colors. Other designs in clothing include polka dots, that's 圆点的图案, or zigzag, 之字形. So these are all different ways that you can, different kinds of designs that appear in patterned clothing.
Pattern 是名词，在这边指的是图案或者是花样，像是条纹啊、点点或者是千鸟纹，都可以说是一种 pattern。那 pattern 除了当图案之外呢，还有另一个意思是方式或者是模式 ，a particular way in which something is done. For example, my relationships always follow a same pattern. I meet someone, we start dating, and then we break up.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear you're stuck with that pattern. So, rolling back to our article, we are going to talk a little bit more about, some of the patterns, some of the common ways that优席夫paints his paintings. The article says, powerful pinks, reds, yellows, and greens fill his pictures with warmth.
所以课文呢，就是说这个画家很多作品都跟阿美族的传统服饰有关系，他的画作都会有很强烈的色彩，像是粉红色、红色、黄色或是绿色。那这些颜色呢，让他的画作充满了温暖。Fill A with B 指的就是用 B 填满 A.
Exactly. We also saw the word warmth. Now, warmth is a noun. It's actually the noun form of warm, the adjective warm. So you probably already know that warmth means 温暖, but we don't always use this word to talk about temperature. Warmth can also be a feeling too. It can be a feeling of comfort or friendliness, like our example sentence. Amy's hometown was filled with warmth in the weeks leading up to Christmas. So here we don't mean that it was hot in Amy's town. Obviously, it's December. It's probably going to be cold. We mean that the general feeling of the place was one of happiness, love, and excitement. People were getting ready for the holidays and coming home to see their families. So the mood of the town was very nice. We can also use cold to talk about emotions. Now, when someone is cold with you, that's very different. It means that they are very unfriendly to you, and they probably don't speak to you at all, like in this example sentence. Did I say something to upset Hannah? She was so cold with me this morning.
Warm 除了拿来形容气温温暖之外呢，也可以用来指热情，形容的是比较心理层面的感觉 ，the feeling of love and happiness。课文继续说 that warmth can also be seen in the smiling faces of his subjects.
Exactly. Most of Yosefu's paintings feature his family and friends. Feature, that's our last vocab word for today. And when a picture features something, that something is an interesting part of it. Think about the world's most famous painting, the Mona Lisa. One feature of that painting is the woman's smile. It's an interesting part of the picture that people often talk about. Another feature of the painting is the countryside behind her. So you'll notice there that I used feature as a noun. Feature with this meaning can be both a verb and a noun. So we could also say that the painting features an interesting smile, or an interesting feature of the painting is the smile. So it works both ways. We can also use feature to talk about important elements in other things like movies, products, music, and books. So here's an example sentence of that. This cell phone features a great camera that can take amazing photos.
Feature 在这边是动词，指的是以某个东西为特色。那课文这里就是说，这个画家他的画作都是以他的家人和朋友为特色。We can often see this word feed， 然后有一个that in some music videos or just some song titles. Featuring 指的就是有时候歌手会跟其他的歌手合作，那这个 featuring 的歌手可能就会在这个歌里面唱一段 rap 的部分，或者是副歌的部分。那 feature 同时也可以当作名词，指的就是特色或者是特征。And the article says, it's because these are people I love, he explains.
Exactly. And there's a really good quote ending the first day. Yosefu explains why he chooses to use people that he loves. He says, when you love someone, there's warmth. And when there's warmth, there's beauty. Okay, so he's saying, you know, when you feel something for the person you're painting, your paintings are going to be more beautiful. They're going to be have something extra special about them. Okay, that's all the time we have for our first day of the article. Let's go on to our For You Chat question now.
For You Chat.
Okay, so our For You Chat question for today is, what famous painters do you know of? What are they famous for? Okay, so Nikki, what famous painters do you know of?
I just thought of one. It's Van Gogh.
Van Gogh, okay, yes, he's a very famous painter.
Starry, Starry Night.
Yes, Starry, Starry Night, that's his most famous painting, isn't it?
I think he's also famous for his ears. Like he cut off one of his ears.
He cut off one of his ears. Yeah, that's true. That wasn't a work of art, though. I think that was just
but he has a lot
bad
of
incident.
Portraits of himself losing one ear.
He does. What is it you like about Vincent van Gogh?
There's a lot of dots, and it's like, It's also like a picture. It says like 1,000 words
Yes, it tells a very detailed story. I particularly like in Starry Night how he uses lots of swirls, like swirling strokes to make the sky look like it's moving. One of my favorite painters is Picasso. I've always really liked Picasso, particularly because when he draws, he paints. Actually, he draws and paints, but when he does his paintings of people, his paintings of portraits, he doesn't do normal pictures of like a face the way you would see in a photograph.
It's a lot of like aspects and different
he uses
perspectives.
Different perspectives and different shapes to make interesting face shapes. And I always thought that they were very beautiful paintings. Okay, so you guys can talk a little bit now about your favorite painters. When you come back tomorrow, we're going to be talking more about Yosefu and how he became a painter in the first place. So join us tomorrow when we'll be talking more about that. For English for You, I'm Seb.
I'm Nikki.
And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Connection. There is a close connection between getting enough sleep and doing well on tests. Painter. We think of Vincent van Gogh as a famous painter now, but he wasn't successful when he was alive. Influence. Famous people can influence others because people often want to be like them. Pattern. I like the pattern on this Hawaiian shirt. The images of flowers look nice. Warmth. Josie greeted me with warmth and made me feel welcome in her home. Feature. This music festival features some of the most popular singers in Taiwan.
智慧小补帖
Lean. Headdress. Indigenous. Ban.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net